This is just the way the Lord made it, right? All praises. How about Shemir Shai? Um, let me get one more. Right, because now you shouldn't think of yourself higher than. In fact, you should think very humbly of yourself, right? And that way you don't get in contentions and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, you're not gonna not forsake, but you're not gonna make lesson of the Lord's laws, right? His order of things. And if he puts you in order, right, and you're doing what you're supposed to, you don't gotta shout. You don't gotta. You just gotta. Make it plain upon tables. This is what the Lord said, right? For instance, if you're trying to have your house clean, right, and your woman have a problem with the way you're ordering things, the Lord said, I put a difference between the clean and the unclean. So and that's a small matter, but when you look on the grand scale of things, it's like you're not gonna be overruly and like a lion in your house, but at the same time, the woman should not try to be in a man's position, right? And granted that the man is doing what he's supposed to be doing, praising the Lord, keeping the statute, laws, and commandments. So your household is in order, right? This is 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 10. But chiefly, hold on, chapter 2 verse, I'm gonna go from and delivered. Oh, we're gonna go from 9. The Lord knoweth how to deliver the godly out of temptations, and to reserve the unjust unto the day of judgment, to be punished. Right? So if you're doing what you're supposed to, then you'll be delivered out of any wicked, evil temptations. Right? But if you're not, you're going to be held for the day of judgment, to be punished. Right? Like Lot's wife. This chapter goes into, Lot's wife. Let's see. Spare not Noah, turning Sodom to Gomorrah, and delivered just Lot, vexed with filthy conversation of the wicked. Right? Because Lot was righteous. Right? The woman wanted to look back at the world. She turned into stone. He was delivered. Now, continuing on, it says, verse 10, but chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of uncleanness. Right? And of course, there's small matters and major matters, but ultimately, there is a balance. And the man shouldn't be overruly. But if you guys both putting 50-50 into the house, right? I don't say 100% because you need time to rest, but there should be a balance, and communication should be clear on what has to be done. And if there's disagreement, then there should be settling and be like, okay, well, I'll do this, I'll do that. And if you don't agree, then you contend, right? But chiefly them that walk after the flesh, right? So you're not walking in the spirit. Maybe money rules you, women rule you, drugs rule you, alcohol rules you. Whatever you give into the flesh, right? Money is a strong defense, but you should be getting wisdom first. Right? So again, you got to work. Slothful. Got to go look at the ants. If you don't work, you don't eat. The Lord says. Right? So, and despise government. Right? So the Lord is setting up His prophets in the end days. Right? Brothers who speaking, thus saith the Lord. Camps. Out of all camps, I believe elect is coming out of all camps. They're speaking, thus saith the Lord, and putting these commandments in order, and setting up the coming of the Lord. Right? What did Elijah do? Elijah said, "Make straight the way for the Lord." Right? So I can't tell you what you're doing wrong. You can't tell me what I'm doing wrong unless it's out in the open. But in our hearts of hearts, in our mind, we know what we're doing wrong and what we have to fix. We need to make that straight for the Lord. Right? That's what John the Baptist did, right? Which is Elijah in the spirit. Great prophet, right? He said they're setting up a government, and the government is the Lord's kingdom, right? Statute, laws, and commandments. So presumptuous. So these type of people hate that government that's being set up, right? They talk evil about the men, and these are men. These are men of the Lord, right? The Lord said that my elect are men, right? So presumptuous are they, right? So they assume in their mind, they let their mind take over what scriptures say, right? They contend, they go against what their husband says, right? Even though he's leading the household, they'll go against that. And then they're self-willed, right? They think they know it all, got all the answers. They don't go to the scriptures. They'll bring in their own doctrines. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignity. So these men who are set up, they'll speak evil of, right? Whereas angels, which are greater in power and might, bring not really an accusation against them. So that even the angel of the Lord wouldn't bring an accusation against these men who the Lord has set up. But these I'm referring to women who speak evil. But there's also a lot of Jakes and of course the other nations that will speak evil of the men who are set up for the Lord. The government, right? The government will be upon the Lord's shoulders. It says, but these are natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed. Speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption, and shall receive the reward of unrighteous, as they are count it pleasure to riot in the daytime. They're ready for violence. That's what drives them. Spots they are, and blemishes, sporting themselves with their own deceiving while they feast with you. Right? They are the shit, but it don't stink. They'll take advantage of you with you, which have forsaken the right way and are gone astray, following the way of Balaam, the son of Bosor, who loved the wages of unrighteousness, right? But was rebuked for his iniquity. The dumb ass speaking with man's voice forbade the madness of the prophet, right? So again, the Lord used a donkey to shut them up. And still, they'll continue on in their wickedness, even with knowing everything they know, rebuked, seen the miracles, seen everything, but they still hold something in this world higher than the Lord and His prophets and His men, right? All praises to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Rakha Kadash. Wait upon the Lord Yasharallah, Kwam Yasharallah, Shalom.